You want that happening on the drift track? You want this happening on your drift track, buddy? Where's that? Fantastic.
Welcome back to Astro Auto Styling. I'm Lucas, and today we're going to be talking about a terrible wrap job that T-Pain got on one of his drift cars. Now, this story is about 2 years old, maybe 2.5. So a lot of videos have been made about the shop, about the people involved, about how T-Pain got scammed, and I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about the drama or the finances or anything like that. I just want to specifically focus on the actual vinyl wrap. So there's other work done to the car. Again, we're not going to get into it. We're just going to look at the vinyl wrap. I think just going through this will be helpful because there's some common mistakes or bad mistakes, or however you want to view it, that anyone can make. Some of them are completely acceptable for newbies, and some of them are pretty egregious. But whatever it is, it's good to know what went wrong so that if you're wrapping your own car, you know how to avoid it or how to prevent it from looking like this, right? So basically, all the four things we're going to look at, or the four types of mistakes we're going to look at, can be broken down into the mirrors, which are difficult areas of a car to wrap, using multiple pieces or seaming the material, disassembly, again, very common, and then trimming. Okay, these are the four areas we're going to look at today. So these mirrors are not mirror caps. Mirror caps are very easy to wrap because they're just a small portion of the top of the mirror, and it only requires one piece, not very much trimming. It's pretty easy to do. These are complete mirrors. The whole thing is painted. So when you're looking at this, obviously you should not be seeing any red. Like, that's horrible. But how do you prevent that? So the inside area around the glass there, you need an inlay, right? You have to do that first. And then after you've done that, you can wrap your main piece over and have an invisible seam. It'll be completely hidden. The thing is, with mirrors, and this happens a lot with vinyl wrappers, it kind of becomes an ego challenge. Can you do it in one piece? You probably could. I mean, if you're really experienced, I wouldn't attempt it. I would do it in two pieces. So, well, three in total. I'd have my inlay for the inside area around the glass. Then I would have a piece on the bottom of that mirror, and then my main piece on the front and the top. All the seams would be hidden. I'd use body lines or whatever to make it look clean. But you don't have to go and do this all in one piece. Moving past the fact that there's a bunch of paint showing, look at all these lines that are running towards the edges of the mirrors. Okay, these are called fingers. Why do we have this? Why does this happen? This is because the material has been overstretched, and then once it's been heated up again in the sun, it relaxes and shrinks back to its original form. How are you going to prevent that? Because a mirror is a complex shape, you need to use heat to stretch the material and get it to conform to that curve. How do you prevent it from failing like this? After you've stretched it around the mirror, you're going to heat it up again just to relax it back to see how the vinyl's moving. And then you also need to post-heat it. Post-heating is critical because that'll help the vinyl maintain its shape and you won't get this pullback at the end. Okay, so if you ever see fingers and anywhere on a car, it's because you stretch too much and stretch toward the edge of the body panel or the mirror or whatever it is, and now the vinyl's shrinking back. It's trying to shrink back, and that's where those lines are forming. So again, if you're doing detective work on why your wrap failed, that could be one clue. Now we're going to move on to using seams or multiple pieces because that kind of relates to the mirror. I have never, ever seen someone use seams or multiple pieces on a quarter panel like we see here. Just like the mirrors, it's an ego challenge, right? People say everything should be done in one piece. If you can't do it in one piece, you don't know what you're doing. You shouldn't be wrapping cars. Okay, that's their opinion. I disagree with that. But if you're going to use a seam, it has to be on a prominent body line, and it has to be completely hidden. Even if I tell you that I put a seam right there, you should have to really look at it and go, yeah, I could kind of see it, right? It has to be invisible. There is no place on a quarter panel to use a seam. There is no body line that's prominent enough. There's no edge that's sharp enough to hide a seam. This looks like either the material's cut too short, it wasn't measured properly, or it may be ripped during the install and they need to patch it up. It's clearly a patch job. Unacceptable. If that happens to you, just take the L, rewrap it, because there's really no defending it at a car show or a car meet or wherever you go with your car. You got to redo that. On the fender flares, there's seams on the fender flares. No need for that. There's no body line to put them. Should be just done in one piece. However, around the rivets, these are difficult areas to do, but to make it look cleaner instead of what they've done here, there is that little body line that goes around each rivet, right? An inlay could be put there, and then when you put your main piece on, you can trim around that body line and overlay it, and you won't see the inlay, right? You won't see that seam. If you're going to use seams or multiple pieces, don't feel like you don't know what you're doing, because it's perfectly fine. However, it has to be done in the correct place, such as this little area around the rivet, or areas on bumpers, where just doing one piece is probably not going to work. But they have to be invisible. It has to look clean. You have to not be like looking at it. You cannot tell it's there. Okay, that should be your goal. If you're thinking, can I put a seam here? The answer to that, if the answer is yes, it's because no one's going to see it, right? That's pretty much the only way that you can use a seam. Okay, disassembly. Every car, if you're wrapping it, you should disassemble it. Just helps with the install. Taking out a handle, takes what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, as opposed to wrapping around it. Not only will it frustrate you, but it'll take pretty much the exact same time or even longer, right? It just makes the wrapping process way less enjoyable when you have to work around raised objects. So, how do you disassemble a vehicle? I'm not a mechanic. Probably most other people that are operating wrap shops or just vinyl wrappers are also not mechanics. If you have a shop that's doing well enough that they can hire someone, a type of technician, to assemble and disassemble vehicles, okay, that's kind of a step up. But if it's just you, how do you know what to do? Me, I've worked on some cars, just taking them apart, but YouTube is my go-to source, right? Once you've acquired a bit of knowledge about some cars, it kind of helps with other ones. So I know Toyota and Lexus kind of put their cars together a certain way. Mercedes does theirs a certain way. Honda, Acura do theirs a certain way. But that's all learning, right? Unfortunately, sometimes you'll get a vehicle and you'll look up, how do I take apart this door handle, or how do I take apart this mirror? And there's no video for it. So what do? Well, you don't just start breaking things. You kind of use your knowledge and experience. And if you still can't figure it out, whatever piece you're looking at, you're still going to be able to see some type of hardware that is allowing this door handle or mirror to be mounted to the vehicle. So what I do is, if I'm trying to figure out how to take something apart, I'll set up my camera and I'll record myself doing it. And eventually, we're all car people here, so we'll figure it out eventually. When you do figure it out, it might take you so long that you go, I don't even remember how I did that. Or how am I going to put this together? I don't even remember how I took it apart. That's why you have the video. So you're just recording yourself going through whatever you're going through. And then if you rewatch the video, when it's time to put it back together, you have all that information. You know where each screw goes, you know where each bolt goes, you know where each rivet or nut goes. You can figure it out. You have all the evidence there. There's really no excuse for something that's been taken apart to not be put back together. Your standard should be, if whatever condition the vehicle comes to you, it at least leaves in that condition. It can't be any worse. Hopefully it's a lot better because it has a nice new wrap on it, but you can't have damaged parts or missing screws or missing hardware. Just take your time. I think that's kind of just that patience and that care for other people's cars. Treat everyone's car like it's your own, and it'll go a long way. Like, the customer will be able to tell. As you can see here, T-Pain can definitely tell that they did not treat his car like it was their own, because to get something back that looks like this, it's hard to understand.
That wasn't like that. What the fuck? Where are my cushions? George is too tall, so he took my cushions out, and I have no idea where they are. But also, you want that happening on the drift track? You want this happening on your drift track, buddy? Where's that? Fantastic. Oh, also, we couldn't figure out how to put your glove box back in, so it's back there.
Lastly, we move on to trimming. It's kind of hard to tell what's happening here. What I think I'm looking at is, it looks like there's an opening behind these areas that he's trying to poke at. Maybe, for example, like a parking sensor, there's a hole in the bumper and the vinyl is just laid over top of that, so it's laid over an opening. You don't want to do that. The reason you don't want to do that is, not only does it not really look good, because you can see it kind of looks like a deflated balloon, but it allows the dirt and grime to continuously hit the adhesive side of that vinyl. If there's any type of air or any type of gap around that seal there, it can leak into the rest of the vinyl, and the wrap will fail prematurely just because it's always getting beat up by road debris or whatever. So anytime you have an opening like that, just make sure you trim around it, clean up all the edges, and it'll look much better. There's no real reason to leave it like that.
A lot of time wrapping that just to have everything red still. Looks good from far away. But would you have paid $11,000 for everything I showed you up close? Huh? Would you? Would you have? Would you have? All that faded out seat shit, would you have paid $11,000 to make sure the shit gets done? And then to have your seat not even be bolted down? Would you have done that? Would you have done that?
Sorry, T-Pain, but no, I don't think anyone here would pay for that. Thanks for watching.